Welcome to Dark Psychology. Today, we are going to explore a topic that contains infinite charm: how power shapes psychological trajectories. Time passes and the world changes, whether it is the lost ancient royal power or modern business giant. The word power always dominates their behavior and psychology. Let's start with Julius Caesar in ancient Rome. He held the power of all Rome in one hand. He once said, "I also want to live an ordinary life, but such a life cannot carry my ambition." See how power changed his understanding of himself and became everything he pursued. Let's look at Steve Jobs in modern society. He led a technological revolution at Apple and let the world witness his power. But he also neglected his family a lot and resolutely promoted his own products for his own sake. Such spiritual power has to make us think deeply. How can it be driven by power? For them, power has become a unique language, a language that does not need to be explained to the outside world, but can instill awe in people. Different people treat power in vastly different ways, and they also have very different moral values due to the influence of power. Caesar could kill his brother and aunt for the sake of power. Jobs could abandon his family for the sake of power. Have their moral concepts become more blurred in the face of power? In other words, does their personality contain a worship of power, which shapes their moral outlook? The attraction of power to them is as irresistible as the attraction of iron to magnet. In the game of power, they either lose themselves or sharpen their spirits. Power to them is like the oxygen of their lives, without which they might suffocate. Power, this double-edged sword, shuttles through the long river of human history, cutting the texture of destiny. It stirs up the most primitive desires deep in people's hearts, shapes their psychological trajectory, and gives them unprecedented charm and fear. As Julius Caesar said in ancient Rome, "The great life you should pursue cannot accommodate the ordinary." He regards power as a stage for realizing his ambitions, and this stage often swings between knives and roses. Caesar's journey to power has made him a symbol in history, and his name has become synonymous with power. But behind this is a profound reflection on the subtle relationship between power and self-perception. His successes and failures all record the dramatic changes in people's minds caused by power. Under his rule, Rome expanded, but the same power also led to betrayal and murder. And when we span the long river of time and observe Steve Jobs in modern society, we can also see examples of the influence of power on the deepest parts of a person's soul. Jobs redefined technology and culture through Apple, but did his ruthless pursuit of perfection also reflect the impact of power on personal choices and sacrifices? It was this force that propelled him to an unparalleled position in the business world. But in the process, his neglect of his family and his ruthlessness to setbacks. Did it mean that under the protection of power, he ignored personal relationships? Thinking further about the nature of power, it is not difficult to see that it is not always obvious. Power does not always appear in the form of grand words or prominent positions. Sometimes it is hidden in the daily life of ordinary people, subtly affecting people's choices and actions. For individuals, power may be like air, invisible and intangible, but it is everywhere and is a part of what we breathe every day. It is silent, but has the power to change everything. So, how exactly does power shape psychological trajectories? There is no standard answer to this question. Everyone's response to power is as unique as a fingerprint. Some people may be corrupted by power and become utopian dictators. Some people may stick to their inner kindness and compassion under the aura of power. Power, which has the dual potential to create heroes and anti-heroes at the same time. At this moment, we may also need to look at ourselves and reflect on ourselves through the stories of Caesar and Jobs. On the scale of power, how do we weigh our own worth and responsibility? Every wave in the long history may have our own presence. Perhaps, real power is not only leading and controlling others, but also the insight and control of one's own heart. In the test of power, what do we really hold on to? Or maybe at a certain crossroads of choice, what did we lose? In power, can we find a balance between worldly and inner pursuits, and stick to our own beliefs and values? And this is the power of power to shape the psychological trajectory. It can shape a hero or cast a demon. In the next Dark Psychology, we will take you to deep in more thought-provoking themes. We see you there or not.